Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to this next guitar lesson. Thank you so much for coming back to check out this lesson. This week we're going to be taking a look, kind of continuing on from the start of the lesson series last week at basically some really beautiful open chord voicings. And for this week we are going to be taking a look at some G major shaped chords, or the key of G major. I say G major shaped or G shaped chords because obviously you can capo these, they don't always have to be in the key of G. But yeah, at any rate, you know, lots of guys use these chords from G major all the time. You know, a lot of guys will capo and just continue using like a lot of these G-shaped chords and stuff. So I just want to give you guys some new options and some cool sounds to use within these really popular shapes, kind of based off of G. So once again, we're going to be taking a look at 6 chords from the key. So the 1 major, the 2 and the 3 minor, the 4 and the 5 major. And then the 6 minor, and then kind of skipping out on the diminished chord once again. And then taking a look at kind of 2 really nice sounding substitutions for basically each chord. So yeah, let's get started with taking a look at the G major chord first of all. Alright guys, so the first G major that we'll take a look at, this isn't a substitution, this is just kind of the original chord. Most guys even I found play it like this than the kind of the old school way, I guess I'd call it. So this is kind of the most common way I see it played, with the pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E, ring on the 3rd fret of the B, pointer 2nd fret of the A, middle 3rd fret of the low E. It's usually the most common way I see it played. The old school way is kind of like this, with just basically no note on the B, so the B is just open. So that's kind of a little more old school way. So just a little bit of a change playing it like this. Okay, let's take a look at kind of a cool voicing I came up with a little bit ago. So this voicing is basically, it might be a little bit of a weird grab for you guys at first, but again, this is a beautiful voicing, so it's worth spending some time on. It's going to be middle 3 of the low E, pinky 5 of the A, then an open D string, so we're going to get that unison thing going on again. And we're going to have ring at the 4 of the B, or excuse me, the 4 of the G, so ring 4G, then another open string, an open B string there, and then the pointer on the 3rd fret of the high E. So we're going to end up with this chord. It's just a lovely chord, so we get 2 unison notes in there. If I pick across it nice and slow for you guys. Okay, and you can just kind of use this pointer finger up top just to mute that high E string if you don't want the G as the melody note. It makes it sound a little more final, so if you don't want that, you can push it down, you know, you can fret it, or you can let off and have it not ring out at all. Just depends what you want as the highest note in the chord. Okay, so there's kind of our first substitution. Just a standard G major. I just love the sound of those couple of unison notes ringing out in there. Okay, the next one is a really pretty voicing. This is a little bit of a stretch, so just make sure you're warmed up and give your fingers a little stretch before you attempt playing this one. Here's what the actual shape is going to look and sound like. Okay, so a really pretty voicing. Basically what this one is going to be is pointer at the 3rd fret of the low E, middle at the 5th fret of the A, then we're going to have the D, G, and B ringing open, then the pinky at the 7th fret of the high E. Which makes for a really pretty voicing because now the 3rd is the melody note. Now if that voicing is a little difficult for you, don't worry about the middle finger. Just take that off and use a pointer finger to fret the low E string note and just to mute the A string. Still get basically the same chord, we just won't have this 5th unison note there. Which I'm sure as you guys are probably starting to notice, I really love those unison notes in these chords. I think they just sound awesome, but again, if you can't reach that, that's totally fine. So at any rate, there's our 2 substitutions, or the original chord. Okay, first substitution, second substitution. Okay, so some really nice voicings there. Now on to A minor. Sometimes you guys might notice too that some of these chords are going to overlap. Like this first A minor chord we're going to take a look at is actually the first one that we had looked at from last week. So once again, just to review, this first substitution is going to be open A string, middle at the 2nd fret of the D, open G, pointer finger at the 1st fret of the B, and then pinky at the 3rd fret of the high E. Okay, so there's that chord, sounds really good. Okay, now the next substitution is basically, and these two are going to lead really nicely from one to the next. Okay, so here's our second substitution. So here's what this looks like. No low E, we're going to play the A string. Ring is going to be the 7th fret of the D. Pointer is going to be at the 5th fret of the G. Pinky is going to be at the 8th fret of the B. And then that pointer is going to do a bar across a G, B, and the high E string. So it's actually going to be playing the 5th fret of the high E as well. So one more time, we get 7 of the D, 5 of the G, 8 of the B, 5 of the high E. It's kind of an A minor 7. Again, that'll work anytime you see an A minor, you're writing a song with an A minor in it. Okay, back down to the original. Okay, back up. Okay, so you can hear that those two lead really nicely from one to the next. Okay, so here's that substitution of A minor. Now on to B minor, alright? So this first substitution is a really killer one. I love this. It kind of gives us like a B minor 11 sound. Yeah, I just love this chord. I think it sounds really good. So here's where we're going to have no low E string, pointer 2nd fret of the A, open D string, middle 2nd fret of the G, ring 3rd fret of the B, open high E string. Okay, and this is once again onto the 3 minor chord. Okay, so B minor again, B minor 11 in this case. This will work just over a standard B minor though. Okay, really lovely chord voicing. Okay, the other substitution is a really pretty one. This is going to be middle 7th fret of the low E, which is just going to give us our root note, our B. Then that's just going to be lightly touching the A string just to keep it muted. Then we're going to have an open D string. Then ring is going to be at the 7th fret of the G, pinky 7th fret of the B, pointer 5th fret of the high E. And that's what we end up with. Basically a B minor 7 voicing. Okay. It's really pretty because we have an octave right here from one D to the next D, and it adds a really nice texture in that chord. Okay, so here's the first substitution. On to the next. Okay, so a couple of great B minors there. Let's now move on to the C major, the 4 chord. Alright, so last week we had obviously already taken a look at a couple of C major substitutions, so this week we're going to take a look at a couple more. So first of all, this C major here, this first one we're going to start with, again, pretty popular voicing, but some of you guys might not know this one, so this is going to be just our first substitution just because it sounds really good. So middle 3 of the A, pointer 2 of the D, open G string, ring 3 of the B, pinky 3 of the high E. That basically gives us a C add 9. Okay, which is a really lovely voicing. I think that sounds really good. And then for this one you can take the pointer finger on and off. Same with the ring finger, and same with the pinky. Or you can do them both together. A lot of options there. Basically every finger kind of besides, well, you can even take the middle finger off and hammer on if you want. So really every finger in this chord you can take off and then on and see what kind of sounds you end up with, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, now on to the second substitution for C major. This one, again, might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's really pretty voicing. It actually looks a lot like the G major that we looked at just a little bit ago. So here's what this is going to be. Pointer, 3rd fret of the A, and then we're going to have middle at the 5th fret of the D, no low E for this one as well. And then we're going to have an open G string, an open B string, and then our pinky is going to be up at the 7th fret of the high E. So that's what that one sounds like. So that is a killer voicing. I really love that 7th being on top, that major 7. And then it's cool because we get a little octave there as well. So that's just a great voicing, and that leads really nicely from C major 7 back to that first G major we had looked at. So those are two really nice chords to move from one to the next, and I think they sound just really nice. So at any rate, those are two substitutions for C major. Now on to D major, the 5 chord. So basically for this one, we're going to start with just a regular old D major, which I'm sure most of you guys probably know. Okay, now all I'm going to do is where my ring finger is right now, I'm going to put my middle finger there instead. I'm going to put my pinky up at the 5th fret of the high E. Okay, so that's a really nice substitution. Basically we just get like a big old D power chord. We can play that from the A string down or the D string down. It's kind of nice to go back to a regular D major, like I'm doing a bar here with my pointer. Out of that, make a D suspended with the ring finger at the 3rd fret of the high E. Okay, let an open E string ring out. Okay, I know that's like a whole bunch of substitutions. This is kind of the main one. And we can just kind of have some more movement around that one if we want to. Okay, now here's one that some of you guys have probably played, but it's such a great voicing just to make sure. So let's start with just a regular C major chord. Ring 3 of the A, middle 2 of the D, open G, pointer 1 of the B, open high E. I'll just slide this up 2 frets. Voicing right there for D major. This always works really well, this voicing when you're like in the key of G or playing G-shaped chords. This really works well as the 5 chord. Okay, because it has the 9 and it also has the 11 or the 4 in it. This interval right here, minor second, is really tense. When played with the rest of the chord, it sounds killer. Okay, now something we can do is to spice this up a little bit, is we can exchange our ring for a pinky and put our ring on the 5th fret of the low E. And now we have the 5th in the bass. Just adds a little more power to the voicing. It sounds really good. So I really love this voicing. This is a great one to use as the 5 chord when you see like D major when you're in the key of G. Or when when you're capoed as well, it'll still work for the 5 chord. Okay. There's our first voicing. On to the second. So yeah, there's the substitutions for D major. Now let's move on to E minor. Basically, the first one that we're going to take a look at is, most of you guys have probably played this before, so I'm not going to actually do this as a substitution because so many of you guys probably already know this chord. Just to make sure though, open low E, pointer at the 2nd of the A, middle at the 2nd of the D, open G, ring at the 3 of the B, pinky at the 3 of the high E. Gives us E minor 7. I'm also not going to cover that because we had also covered that last week in last week's lesson. So, standard E minor 7. Now, here's the shape we are going to use. This is the first substitution. Now this is going to be open low E, pointer 2 of the A, ring 4 of the D, open G string, middle 3 of the B, and then an open high E. Okay, so something that I really like to do from there is to just kind of do this little kind of riff idea, I guess. So I just use a ring finger to start at the D, and then I slide into that 4, and just put the rest of the chord down. That's a really cool little move. So at any rate, that's the first E minor substitution. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to have an open low E, ring at the 7 of the A, pointer at the 5 of the D, an open G string, pinky at the 8 of the B, and then an open high E string. Just as a quick side note, the pinky can also move 1 fret towards the headstock, so it's on 7. And it adds just a really nice little movement. So those sound really nice moving back and forth between those two chords. So yeah, there's kind of 2 substitutions for each chord, again excluding the 7 chord, the diminished chord. I hope you guys enjoyed all those substitutions. There's a lot of great sounds in there. You know, just experiment with going back and forth between a whole bunch of those voicings, you know, coming up with some different progressions. Like I'd shown you maybe that C substitution, maybe that E minor with throwing in that little riff, then onto the D with the 5th and the bass, and then ending off at that G major with the 3rd up top. So, you know, just even little progressions like that. You know, normally that progression that I just played would sound really simple, you know, just C, E minor, D, G, if we just use standard open chords, but using these substitutions really adds a whole new flavor and texture to these chords, and I think makes it just, you know, so much prettier and really adds some beauty to the chords. So at any rate, yeah, this concludes this lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed all these chord substitutions. Let me know what you thought of them in the comment section, and I will see you all back here for the next lesson next week. Thanks so much, everyone.